The sun was rising over the city when Officer Daniel parked his patrol car outside the large building that read, Bright Path Guide Dog Center. The golden light reflected off the polished windows, and the sound of barking dogs came faintly from inside. Daniel sat quietly for a moment, his heart full of both hope and worry. Beside him sat his daughter, Lily, a young girl of 13 with long brown hair tied neatly in a braid. Her eyes, though open, could not see. Lily had lost her vision 2 years ago after a terrible car accident. Since then, Daniel's world had changed completely. He was not just a police officer anymore. He was a father who had to become her eyes. Every morning he guided her to the breakfast table, to the garden, to school, and every step reminded him that she could no longer see the world she once loved. That morning, Daniel had promised her something special. They were going to find her a guide dog, a companion who would walk beside her, protect her, and give her the freedom she had lost. Lily had been dreaming about it for weeks. She had read about how dogs could lead the blind, how they could sense danger, stop at corners, and even find their way home. She was nervous but excited. "Are we here, Dad?" she asked softly. "Yes, sweetheart," Daniel said, getting out of the car and coming around to her side. He gently took her hand. "We're at the Guide Dog Center," Lily smiled. "Can I hear them?" "The dogs?" Daniel paused and listened too. From inside came joyful barks and the sound of trainers calling out commands. He smiled at her question. "Yes, you can hear them. They sound happy." Together they walked through the doors. A woman in a green vest greeted them warmly. Her name tag read Mia, trainer. She had a kind face and a voice full of patience. "Good morning, officer," she said. "You must be Daniel and Lily. We've been expecting you." Lily turned her head toward the voice. "Hello, Miss Mia." Mia smiled. "Hi, Lily. I'm going to show you some very good dogs today. Each one is trained to help people just like you." Daniel nodded, looking around. The center was bright and clean, filled with the scent of fresh straw and soap. Dogs of different sizes sat calmly in their kennels, watching curiously as the visitors passed. Some wagged their tails. Others sat perfectly still as if waiting for an order. Mia led them to a fenced area outside. "These are our current guide dogs in training," she explained. "We have a few ready for adoption. Lily, would you like to meet them?" "Yes, please," Lily said, her voice full of excitement. Mia called for the first dog, a golden retriever named Sunny. The dog walked gracefully to Lily, sat down and pressed her nose gently against Lily's hand. Lily laughed softly, feeling the dog's warm fur. "She's gentle," she said. "She's one of our best," Mia said proudly. "Very calm, very loyal." Daniel smiled as he watched his daughter. For the first time in months, she looked truly happy. He could see how much this meant to her. Lily spent the next hour meeting several dogs, Sunny, Max, Bella, and Toby. Each one had its own charm. But something in Daniel's heart felt unsettled. He didn't know why. Every dog seemed perfect, yet he felt that something was missing. When they were about to finish, a sharp bark came from the far side of the yard. It was deep and strong, unlike the others. Daniel turned to see a German shepherd sitting behind a separate gate. The dog had a bandaged leg and a small scar above its right eye. Its coat was dark and shiny, and its gaze was calm but alert. Mia noticed Daniel looking. "Oh, that's Rex," she said with a sigh. "He's not part of the guide dog program. He's a retired K9. He used to serve in the police force, but he was injured in the line of duty." Daniel walked closer to the gate. The dog stood up slowly and limped toward him. There was something noble in the way Rex carried himself, even with the injury. He stopped near the fence, tail still, eyes locked on Daniel. "He was a police dog?" Daniel asked quietly. "Yes," Mia said. "He worked in the city division until a year ago. He protected his handler during a warehouse raid. Took a bullet in the leg. He's healed, but he walks with a limp now. We keep him here for rehabilitation." Daniel knelt near the fence. Rex didn't bark or growl. He just looked at him with those steady brown eyes as if he remembered the smell of a police uniform. Daniel extended his hand through the bars and Rex slowly placed his paw on it. Lily tilted her head, hearing the faint sound of claws on metal. "Who's that, Dad?" Daniel looked back at her. "This is Rex, sweetheart. He's a retired police dog." Lily smiled. "Can I meet him?" Mia hesitated. "He's very gentle, but he's been through a lot. Still, I think it's safe. He seems calm." Daniel guided Lily forward. Rex stood still as she knelt beside him. When she reached out her hand, Rex leaned forward and let her touch his muzzle. His fur was thick and soft under her fingers. He gave a low, gentle whine and Lily laughed softly. "He likes you," Daniel said. Lily smiled. "I like him too. He feels strong." Mia watched the scene, her expression thoughtful. "It's strange," she said quietly. "Rex doesn't usually warm up to new people, but he seems different with her." Daniel stood up, still watching the two together. There was something unexplainable about it. Rex kept his head low near Lily's hand, almost as if he understood her in a way no one else could. After a while, Mia spoke again. "Lily, would you like to continue meeting the other dogs?" Lily shook her head. "No, Miss Mia, I like Rex. He makes me feel safe." Daniel looked surprised. "But he's not a guide dog, honey. He was trained for police work. He might not know how to lead someone like you." Lily smiled softly, her fingers still resting on Rex's head. "He doesn't have to lead me, Dad. He just has to walk with me." Mia smiled at her gentle words, but she also looked uncertain. "It's unusual, officer. Guide dogs go through a long process. Rex might not know those commands." Daniel nodded slowly. "I understand. But maybe we can give him a chance." Mia thought for a moment and then said, "All right. I'll talk to the manager. But if Rex is to be adopted, he'll need approval from the department since he's a former K-9. Daniel nodded again, his hand resting on the dog's head. Rex's tail gave a slow wag. Something about that moment felt right. It was as if fate had quietly brought them together. When they left the center, Rex watched them go. He stood behind the fence, his eyes following the girl who could not see him. Daniel looked back once and saw the dog still standing there, silent and loyal. He didn't know yet that this meeting would change everything in their lives, their pain, their fear, and even their future. Because Rex was not just any dog. He was a hero who had lost his purpose, and now perhaps he had found it again. The next few days passed slowly for Daniel and Lily. Every night, Lily talked about Rex. She remembered the warmth of his fur, the way he had stayed quiet beside her, and how safe she had felt in that short meeting. Daniel listened to her with a gentle smile, though deep inside he was uncertain. Rex was not a trained guide dog, and Lily needed one who could safely lead her across streets and crowded places. Still, something about Rex stayed in his mind too. Daniel spent that week making calls. He contacted the police department, asking about Rex's record and if adoption was possible. Everyone at the station remembered Rex. They spoke about his bravery, his loyalty, and the day he had saved his handler's life. Daniel learned that Rex's injury had forced his early retirement. His old partner had moved away after the accident, and Rex had been sent to the training center for rest and care. After hearing all this, Daniel felt more certain. He decided to visit the center again. When Saturday came, he told Lily to get ready. "We're going somewhere," he said with a smile. "Is it the guide dog place?" She asked, her face brightening. Daniel nodded. "Yes, we're going to see Rex again." Lily almost jumped with joy. She reached for her walking cane and held his arm. Together they drove through the quiet morning streets until they reached the Bright Path Center. Mia met them at the entrance, already aware of Daniel's request. "I spoke to the department," she said. "They approved it. Rex can be adopted by you, officer. But there are conditions. He'll need continued medical checkups, and since he isn't trained for guiding, you'll have to be careful with Lily." Daniel nodded. "I understand. I'll take full responsibility," Mia smiled. "I believe you will. Rex seems to trust you both." When they entered the yard, Rex was sitting under a tree. His bandaged leg was better, though he still limped a little. The moment he saw Daniel and Lily, his ears lifted and his tail moved slowly. He got up and walked toward them, his limp barely noticeable. Lily knelt as soon as she heard his footsteps. Rex lowered his head beside her shoulder, and she wrapped her arms around his neck. "I missed you," she whispered. Daniel watched the scene with a warmth he had not felt in a long time. Even Mia seemed touched. "He remembers her," she said softly. "That's rare for a dog he met only once." After some paperwork and checks, Rex was finally ready to go home with them. Mia gave Daniel a leash and a bag of Rex's medical records. "Take good care of him," she said. "I will," Daniel replied. "Thank you for everything." The drive home was quiet. Rex sat in the back seat beside Lily, his head resting on her lap. Every time the car slowed, he lifted his head, ears alert. His eyes moved from window to window as if making sure they were safe. Lily gently stroked his fur the whole time. When they reached their house, Rex walked around carefully, sniffing the porch, the living room, and the small garden at the back. Daniel let him explore. Lily stood near the doorway, holding her cane. "Can I let him see my room?" she asked. Daniel smiled. "Of course." Rex followed her upstairs slowly. She pointed out where her bed was, where her bookshelf stood, and where she kept her toys from before she lost her sight. Rex stayed close, his nose sometimes brushing her leg to make sure she was there. By the evening, Rex had already settled into his new home. He stayed near Lily most of the time. When she walked to the kitchen, he walked beside her. When she sat to listen to music, he lay near her feet. That night, Daniel stood by the doorway watching them. Lily was sitting on the couch and Rex was asleep with his head on her lap. She smiled when she felt his breathing. "He makes me feel like I can see again, Dad," she said quietly. Daniel walked in and sat beside her. "Maybe that's because he sees for you in his own way." Lily nodded. "I think he knows when I'm afraid. He stays close." For the next few days, Rex became part of their family. Daniel took him for short walks every morning and Lily joined them, holding the leash gently while Rex walked ahead. At first, Daniel kept a hand on her shoulder to make sure she was safe. But as days passed, he noticed something surprising. Rex seemed to understand. Whenever Lily reached the sidewalk, Rex stopped automatically. He waited until Daniel said it was safe, then moved forward. When they came near stairs, he slowed down, gently nudging Lily to warn her. None of this was taught to him. It was instinct, perhaps born from his years of service. One afternoon, Daniel tested something. They were in the small park near their home. He let go of the leash for a moment while Lily walked slowly on the path. Rex stayed beside her, never leaving her side. When a boy on a bicycle came speeding from behind, Rex moved in front of Lily at once, standing like a shield. The boy stopped in time and apologized, but Daniel's heart swelled with pride. He realized Rex didn't need guide training to protect Lily. He already knew how to guard, how to sense danger, and how to care. That evening, Daniel sat by the window after dinner. He watched Rex lying at Lily's feet while she told him stories about her favorite books. Her laughter filled the room, something Daniel hadn't heard much since the accident. A knock came at the door. It was Officer Ryan, one of Daniel's old colleagues. He stepped inside and smiled at Rex. "Well, look who it is. The old hero himself." Rex lifted his head and wagged his tail slightly, recognizing the familiar scent of a police uniform. Ryan turned to Daniel. "I heard you adopted him." "Good choice. That dog once saved my life too." Daniel looked surprised. "Really?" Ryan nodded. "Back in the warehouse case. I was there when it happened. He ran right into the line of fire to pull his handler out. Smartest and bravest dog I've ever seen." Daniel looked at Rex with new respect. He had known Rex was brave, but hearing it like this made it real. After Ryan left, Daniel went to Lily's room. She was already asleep, Rex lying beside her bed. The soft rise and fall of his breathing filled the room. Daniel stood there for a while, feeling grateful. The next morning, something special happened. Daniel had to leave early for work, so he told Lily to stay home with Rex. Before leaving, he said, "If you need anything, just call me." "Okay, Dad," she said. "Rex will stay with me." A few hours later, Lily decided to go to the backyard. She opened the door and stepped out slowly, holding Rex's leash. The sunlight warmed her face and she could hear the wind moving through the trees. Rex guided her gently across the grass, stopping near the flower bed. She sat down and smiled. "You know, Rex, I think you understand me," she said softly. "You don't just help me walk. You make me feel brave again." Rex rested his head on her knee as if he understood every word. But at that same moment, far from their home, something was happening that would soon test them both. A call came to Daniel's police radio about a missing child near the same neighborhood. The area was close to his home, and as Daniel listened, a strange worry filled his heart. He didn't know yet that soon, Rex's old instincts would rise again and the bond between him and Lily would face its first real test. The day began quietly in the small neighborhood. Birds sang on the rooftops and children played near the street corners. Lily was sitting in the garden with Rex beside her. She was listening to the gentle sound of wind passing through the trees. Her cane rested beside her chair, and her hand stayed on Rex's back as he lay on the grass. Everything felt calm, peaceful, and safe, but that calm was soon broken by a worried voice. A woman ran down the street calling for her son. Tommy, where are you?" she cried. Her voice echoed through the neighborhood. Lily lifted her head when she heard the shouts. Rex stood up at once, his ears pointed, eyes alert. His body stiffened as he listened. Lily could feel his muscles tense. "What is it, Rex?" she asked softly. From behind the gate came more noise. People were gathering, trying to help the woman. Someone said the little boy had wandered off while playing near the old park. It was only a few blocks away, but that park bordered a small river. Everyone knew it could be dangerous, especially for a child. Lily's heart began to race. She could sense the worry in the air, the urgency in the voices. Rex took a step toward the gate, looking back at her as if waiting for permission. She hesitated. Her father had told her to stay home, but something inside her said that Rex wanted to help. She slowly stood up and reached for his leash. "Do you know where he is, boy?" she whispered. Rex gave a low bark and pulled gently toward the street. Lily bit her lip, thinking. She didn't want to disobey her father, but she trusted Rex. He had never led her into danger. "All right," she said softly. "Let's go help." She opened the gate and Rex began to walk forward, guiding her with careful steps. His nose moved quickly as he caught the scent of the missing boy. Lily held the leash tightly, her heart pounding. She could hear the distant voices of searchers calling for Tommy. They reached the end of the street where the pavement met the park trail. Rex stopped, sniffed the ground, and pulled slightly to the left. Lily followed. The soft dirt crunched under her shoes. The air was cooler here, shaded by tall trees. She could hear the faint sound of running water in the distance. Rex moved faster now. Lily tried to keep up, trusting his lead. "Easy, Rex," she said, but he seemed sure of where he was going. They crossed the trail and entered the grassy area near the riverbank. The sound of water grew louder. Then through the noise of the wind, Lily heard a faint cry. It was small and frightened. "Help," the voice said weakly. Lily froze. "Rex, did you hear that?" Rex barked once and pulled forward again. Lily followed, her cane tapping the ground. They reached the edge of the river where the soil was soft and slippery. The crying was louder now, and she could tell it came from below the small wooden bridge nearby. Rex barked again, louder this time. Lily felt him tug hard on the leash. She let go, knowing he needed to move freely. She listened carefully, hands trembling. She could hear the sound of water splashing and Rex growling softly, not in anger but in focus. Moments later, a child's voice called out again. "Doggy," Lily gasped. "Rex found him," she whispered. Rex's deep barks echoed through the park, drawing attention from the searchers. Nearby, a man shouted, "Over there!" "I hear him." Footsteps rushed closer. Daniel was one of the officers responding to the call. When he reached the park, his heart nearly stopped. He saw the familiar figure of his daughter standing near the river, holding her cane. Beside her, Rex stood partly in the shallow water, his teeth gripping the shirt of a small boy who was stuck between rocks near the edge. "Lily," Daniel shouted as he ran toward her. "Stay back." But Lily shook her head. "Dad, Rex found him. He's saving him." Daniel splashed into the water, joining Rex. Together, they pulled the frightened boy to safety. The boy was crying but unhurt, his small hands clutching Rex's fur. When they reached the grass, the boy's mother came running, tears streaming down her face. She hugged her son tightly and kept saying thank you again and again. Daniel turned to Rex, who stood there soaked and muddy, tail wagging slowly. His old limp was worse now from running and pulling in the slippery mud, but his eyes were bright with pride. "You did it again, boy," Daniel said, patting his head. "You saved another life." Lily smiled in his direction. "I told you, Dad, Rex knows things." "He just knows." Daniel knelt beside her, hugging her gently. "You were brave too, sweetheart. But next time, please wait for me. I was so scared when I saw you here." "I'm sorry," Lily whispered. "I just wanted to help." "I knew Rex could do it." Daniel sighed but smiled. He couldn't be angry. Her faith in Rex had led to saving a child's life. News of the rescue spread quickly. That evening, reporters came to the police station to interview Daniel. They wanted to know how a retired K-9 had managed to track and save a missing boy. Daniel gave all the credit to Rex and to Lily. She believed in him when no one else did, he said proudly. When they returned home, Rex was tired but content. Lily dried him with a towel and fed him his favorite meal. "You're my hero," she whispered as she hugged him. That night, Daniel sat quietly in the living room thinking about what had happened. He realized that fate had truly brought Rex into their lives for a reason. The bond between Rex and Lily was something beyond training or commands. It was built on trust, love, and understanding. Over the next few weeks, things changed for their family. Lily became more confident. She began to take small walks with Rex on her own, under Daniel's watchful eye. Neighbors greeted them warmly, often stopping to say hello to the brave dog who had saved a child. One afternoon, Officer Ryan visited again. He brought a small medal wrapped in a box. "This is for Rex," he said, handing it to Daniel. The department wanted to honor him for what he did. It may not be official duty anymore, but heroism like that never fades. Daniel smiled as he placed the medal on Rex's collar. "You earned it, buddy," he said softly. Rex wagged his tail and looked up at Lily, who laughed and clapped her hands. "He's a hero twice now," she said proudly. But even as joy filled their home, Daniel began to notice something troubling. Rex was limping more often. Sometimes he would stop in the middle of the walk and rest. Daniel checked the old injury and saw it was swelling again. He took Rex to the vet, who explained that the old wound had strained badly during the rescue. "He's strong," the vet said, "but his leg needs rest. No long walks for a while." Daniel nodded with concern. He knew Rex was getting older, and the injury would never fully heal. Still, he couldn't imagine their home without him. That night, Lily sat beside Rex's bed, stroking his head. "You don't have to be strong all the time," she whispered. "You already gave me more than I could ask for." Rex licked her hand, his eyes gentle. From that day on, Lily became his caretaker. She brushed his fur, gave him his medicine, and talked to him for hours. In return, Rex stayed alert, always listening for her steps. Their bond grew even deeper. Daniel watched them often and felt peace in his heart. But he also knew that life had one more test waiting for them. Something that would show just how powerful the connection between a blind girl and her injured K9 truly was. A few weeks passed after the rescue, and life became peaceful again for Daniel, Lily, and Rex. The house felt warm and alive with laughter and quiet joy. Lily had learned how to move around more freely. She could walk from her room to the kitchen with confidence, her hand always brushing along the walls for guidance. Rex followed her everywhere, his steps slow but steady despite his injured leg. Every morning, Daniel watched them from the window before leaving for work. He could see Lily brushing Rex's fur while talking to him in a soft voice. The bond between them had grown even stronger since the rescue. They understood each other without words. When Lily smiled, Rex wagged his tail. When she was quiet, he rested his head on her knee as if to comfort her. One Friday evening, dark clouds began to gather above the city. The air became heavy and thunder rumbled in the distance. The radio warned about a strong storm coming that night. Daniel prepared candles, flashlights, and checked the windows. He was supposed to work the night shift, but he hesitated. He didn't want to leave Lily and Rex alone in bad weather. Lily sensed his worry. "Dad, we'll be fine," she said gently. "Rex is with me." Daniel smiled but still looked uncertain. "I know, sweetheart, but if the storm gets worse, stay in your room and don't go near the windows. Keep your phone close. I'll call to check on you." "I will," she promised. Before leaving, Daniel knelt and hugged Rex. "Take care of her." "Buddy." Rex gave a soft bark as if saying he would. By nightfall, rain began to pour heavily. Lightning flashed across the sky, followed by loud thunder. The wind howled through the trees, shaking the windows. Lily sat in her room, listening to the storm. She didn't like thunder, but Rex was lying beside her bed, keeping her calm. "Everything's okay, right, Rex?" she said softly. Rex lifted his head, ears twitching. He was calm but alert. Every sound outside made him raise his head and listen. He sensed that something was different tonight. Hours passed. The storm grew stronger. Power lines went down, and suddenly the lights in the house went out. Darkness filled the room. Lily reached for her phone, but the battery was low. She turned on the small flashlight on her bedside table. The dim light glowed weakly. Outside, the wind pushed hard against the door at the back of the house. A branch broke and fell on the porch with a loud crash. Rex jumped to his feet and barked once. Lily stood up, her heart racing. "What is it?" she asked, holding her cane. Rex moved toward the door, sniffing and barking again. Lily followed him slowly, trying to stay calm. She could hear the sound of rain hitting the windows like thousands of tiny drums. When she reached the living room, she felt a rush of cold air. The back door had opened slightly, the wind forcing it wider each second. She gasped and reached out to close it, but the wind was too strong. Rex pushed his body against it, helping her shut it tightly. Together they managed to lock it again. "Good boy," she whispered, breathing hard. "You're so strong." Rex barked softly, tail wagging once before he turned his head sharply toward the window. Something outside had caught his attention. His body stiffened again, ears forward. He began to growl, a deep, steady sound that came from his chest. Lily froze. "What is it, Rex?" He barked twice, louder this time, then moved closer to the window. Lily walked to him carefully and tried to listen. Through the sound of rain and thunder, she heard something else, a faint cry for help. It was coming from outside, her heart pounded. "Someone's out there?" Rex whined and looked back at her, then toward the door. He scratched at it, eager to go out. Lily hesitated. The storm was dangerous, but if someone was in trouble, they couldn't ignore it. She picked up her raincoat and opened the door slowly. The cold wind hit her face and rain soaked her shoes instantly. She held onto Rex's leash tightly. "All right, boy," she said firmly. "Show me where." Rex pulled forward, guiding her carefully down the steps. The night was filled with thunder and flashes of lightning. Water rushed along the street and the air smelled of wet earth. Lily followed Rex as he moved with purpose, sniffing the ground. After a few minutes, they reached the end of the street where the small bridge stood. The river below was swollen, flowing fast and dangerously close to the edge. Over the roar of water, Lily heard it again, the faint voice of someone crying. Rex barked and ran toward the sound, pulling Lily carefully behind him. Her shoes slipped in the mud, but she held tight to the leash. "I'm coming," she called out. "Where are you?" A weak voice answered. "Help. I'm stuck." It was an elderly neighbor, Mr. Harris, who lived a few houses away. He had gone out to check on his garden shed when the storm hit. Now he was trapped near the riverbank where a small fence had collapsed. Rex reached him first. The man was clinging to a broken wooden post, unable to climb up. Rex barked loudly, alerting nearby residents. Lily called out, "Rex, stay with him." "Don't let him fall." Rex moved closer to the man, biting gently at his jacket, trying to pull him up. His strength surprised even in his injured state. The man held onto Rex's collar while Lily tried to find her footing. She knew she couldn't see where he was, but she could hear the struggle clearly. Neighbors soon arrived, holding flashlights. They saw Rex pulling and Lily standing fearlessly at the edge. With their help, they managed to bring Mr. Harris to safety. The man coughed but smiled weakly. "You saved me, young lady. You and your brave dog." Lily smiled through her soaked hair. "It was Rex, he heard you first." When Daniel arrived later that night after hearing the call on his radio, he ran into the house drenched in rain, his heart pounding. He found Lily sitting on the couch wrapped in a blanket, Rex lying beside her. Both were safe but exhausted. "Are you all right?" Daniel asked, kneeling beside her. She nodded. "We're fine. We helped Mr. Harris. He's okay now." Daniel looked at Rex, who was resting with his head on Lily's lap. His fur was muddy, his legs slightly trembling from strain, but his eyes were calm. "You did it again, partner," Daniel whispered. "You never stop being a hero," Lily smiled faintly. "He didn't even think twice, Dad. He just knew someone needed help." Daniel hugged her gently. "You did too. I'm proud of both of you." The next morning, the storm had passed. The air was fresh and cool, and the sunlight broke through the clouds. Daniel took Rex to the vet again to check his leg. The doctor said the strain had worsened, but promised to help him recover with rest. When they returned home, Lily was waiting on the porch. She hugged Rex tightly. "You're my brave boy," she whispered. "But now it's my turn to take care of you." From that day, Lily became more protective of Rex. She made sure he rested, gave him his medicine on time, and spoke to him softly every night. Rex seemed to understand that he needed to heal, yet his eyes never left her. He still followed her everywhere, even when he limped. Daniel often watched them from the kitchen window. Sometimes he felt tears in his eyes without knowing why. He knew that Rex's strength was fading, but his spirit was still bright. The bond between him and Lily had become something rare and beautiful, and though none of them knew it yet, another moment was coming soon, one that would test the true power of their love and show that even when strength fades, courage never does. The days that followed were full of hope, laughter, and healing. The air inside the small house felt different now. It was peaceful, filled with the warmth of love and courage. Officer David still went to work every morning, but his heart was now lighter. He no longer carried the pain of loss alone. He had something to return home to, his daughter Lily and their loyal friend Rex. Rex had become more than a guide dog. He was like a bridge that connected Lily to the world again. His eyes might have been weak and his body carried scars, but his heart was strong. Every step he took beside Lily showed trust and care. People in the town began to notice the bond between them. Wherever they went, faces turned with gentle smiles. One morning, David stood by the kitchen window, watching Lily play with Rex in the garden. The sunlight touched her face as she ran her hand through Rex's fur. The sound of her laughter filled the air. David felt a deep peace, the kind he had not known for years. For the first time since the accident, he felt that everything would be all right. Rex's injury had healed more than anyone expected. Though one of his legs still moved stiffly, he did not let it stop him. When Lily dropped something, Rex found it. When she took a wrong step, Rex nudged her gently. He was her eyes, her guard, and her best friend. One day, David received a call from the police department. The chief wanted to honor Rex for his service. He said the city would hold a small ceremony to recognize the dog's bravery and loyalty. David agreed with pride in his heart. That evening, he told Lily about the ceremony. She sat quietly beside Rex and smiled. "He deserves it, Dad," she said. "He is a hero." David nodded. "Yes, he is. But you know something, Lily? You are his hero too. You gave him a reason to live again." The ceremony took place in the town park. It was a bright morning, and many people came to see the brave canine who had once saved lives, and was now saving one more in a different way. Officers stood in line, families watched, and children clapped their hands with joy. David walked beside Lily as she held Rex's leash. When they reached the stage, the chief spoke about Rex's service. He told the story of how Rex had been injured in the line of duty, how he had been close to being retired forever, and how a blind girl had given him a second chance. The crowd clapped loudly, touched by the story. When the chief placed a new medal around Rex's neck, the dog stood tall. Lily smiled proudly. She could not see the medal, but she could feel the joy around her. She knelt beside Rex and whispered softly, "You are my light, Rex. You helped me see the world again." Tears filled many eyes in the crowd. Even the chief wiped his eyes quietly. David felt a wave of emotion. He placed his hand on Lily's shoulder and said, "You both saved each other." After the ceremony, many people came to meet Lily and Rex. Children petted Rex gently, and some officers took pictures with them. David stood a little apart watching them. His heart swelled with pride. He realized that life was not just about fighting battles or chasing justice. Sometimes true courage was about healing, about helping others find light when all they could see was darkness. Days turned into weeks, and Rex became a local hero. Newspapers wrote about him. Reporters came to the house to take pictures, but David always made sure that the story was told the right way. He wanted people to know that this was not just about a brave dog. It was about love, trust, and the strength to move forward. Lily grew stronger each day. She started learning how to walk with Rex without fear. Together they explored the garden, the park, and sometimes even the quiet streets near their home. Rex always led her safely, stopping when she needed to rest, guiding her around corners and staying close whenever she was unsure. One night, as they sat by the fireplace, Lily asked her father a quiet question. "Dad, do you think Rex misses being a police dog?" David looked at Rex lying peacefully beside her. "Maybe he does," he said, "but I think he found something even more important." "He found you." Lily smiled and leaned down to hug Rex. The dog wagged his tail gently and rested his head in her lap. The firelight flickered softly across the room. That night, David stayed awake for a while, watching them sleep. His daughter's hand rested on Rex's back, and he could see how safe she felt. He thought about the strange way life worked. A wounded dog and a blind girl, both broken in different ways, had found each other and built something whole again. In the days that followed, David noticed how much Rex had changed their lives. The house no longer felt lonely. Every morning began with the sound of paws against the floor and the gentle laughter of Lily. Even the neighbors said they could feel the happiness coming from their home. One afternoon, while they were walking in the park, an old officer named Ben came up to David. He looked at Rex and said, "You know, that dog was one of the best. I thought his story ended the day he was injured. But I guess it didn't, it just took a different turn." David smiled and replied, "Yeah, sometimes endings are really just new beginnings." As the sun began to set, Lily held Rex's leash a little tighter. She whispered softly, "Let's go home, Rex." The dog barked once as if saying yes. They walked back toward their house, their shadows stretching long behind them. The world around them glowed golden with the evening light. When they reached home, David stood for a moment at the gate, watching his daughter and her guide dog. He felt grateful. The pain that once filled his heart had been replaced by peace. Inside, Lily sat by the window with Rex beside her. She could not see the colors of the sunset, but she could feel its warmth through the glass. She smiled and said, "Rex, I think the world is beautiful." Rex wagged his tail and let out a small bark, as if agreeing with her, and in that quiet moment, David knew that his daughter's world, once filled with darkness, now had light again, thanks to a brave K9 who had lost much but given even more. The story of Rex and Lily spread far beyond their small town, touching hearts everywhere. People learned that even in pain, love could grow. Even in loss, hope could return. And so the police officer, his blind daughter, and the injured K9 continued their days together, not as heroes or victims, but as a family who had found light in each other's hearts.